afternoon. Welcome everyone to this open day. Okay, again, welcome everyone to this open day. I'm very happy to see you here. My name is Professor Micheline Nordi, and I'm in the School of Management, IT and Governance. I've been at UKZN for 20 years, and I am a full professor in the discipline of supply chain management. And I'm also the academic coordinator for the discipline of marketing and supply chain management. So I'm very happy to see you all here tonight, and I hope we are going to derive benefit from the discussion or the conversation I'm going to have with the ex-alumni who are the panelists. We've got 4 panelists tonight. And I want to thank the panelists for availing themselves for this interview or conversation. We'll be asking you a couple of questions, mainly drawing from the alumni's experience and their insight as a postgrad students. They are UKZN postgrad students. And also for you to ask them questions. So I will ask them questions and they will answer, and then I will open it to all of you here, and then please ask any questions that you want. I want this to be a participative event. I just don't want us to be sitting here and talking and you sitting there watching us. I want you to all participate, please. So to begin with, I would like to introduce Vanessa McClaw. Vanessa McClaw actually did her master's in environmental law at UKZN, and she's an environmental specialist in the Department of Environmental Affairs in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. So we'll hear more about her postgrad journey as the panelist in our alumni panel. Then on my right-hand side, I have Mbongiseni Kraba, and he is the Chief Director for Infrastructure at the Development at the KwaZulu-KZN Health Department. He's also, I have to mention this because he has my utmost respect, he is a seasoned Comrades marathon runner. He's done 10 races and he's got a green number under his belt. So, yeah, I mean, I can't even run 1 kilometer, so to run 84 for me is quite something. So yes, welcome. I would like to start. I will start off with my first question. So I'll start off with Vanessa. Can I call you by your first names? Okay, great. So Vanessa, what was your experience as a postgrad student at UKZN?
Thank you for that, and good afternoon, everybody. Well, I must start out by saying I started my postgrad when I was 52 years old. Yeah. So, and my experience was that I needed to start thinking like a student again. So I really take my hat off to you guys. I don't know how you do it. It has been an eye-opening experience for me. And being a postgrad student, and you'll hear later about this because I'm working and I'm a mom, so I had to juggle all those tasks. But my experience, to be a student, I salute you. Well done.
Mbongiseni, what was your experience as a postgrad student?
Thanks, Conference, and good evening, colleagues. I think for me, my experience was more going like a becoming a student again. And for me to take away a cap that I was a manager where I was, to go back and listen to somebody who was there to prepare me for my game. So I think I just happened as well that I became a team leader. I think some of you might have become a team leader because sometimes there are teams whereby somebody will actually coordinate.
I hope colleagues will actually heard me. So I got an opportunity to become a team leader, and I think that process alone of meeting colleagues that I had not met before and be able to coordinate them, it was just a start, besides being in a class, to say how do I actually work with people going forward. But I actually enjoyed the journey of being a student.
Thanks. So Mbongiseni, when you're talking about being a team leader, you're talking about the group assessments that you had to do in your postgrad studies?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and
yeah.
you were the group leader. And of course, there are challenges with doing group assessments.
Yeah, exactly, because there's where you actually don't see eye to eye, there's where you have to do work and somebody does not pitch, and how do you actually use your skills and capabilities to actually keep that team focused.
Thank you. Vanessa, do you have any tips for future postgrad students?
I have plenty. I think the first tip that I'd like to give you is see yourself on that stage with that cap and the gown and watch your colleagues when they walk down that to get that degree. Let that inspire you, because this ain't for the faint-hearted. Masters is a lot of hard work. Families be warned, the dining room table gets taken over, the house gets taken over, there's books everywhere. Family engagements get cancelled. You really don't know your days of the week, but discipline, focused, little bite-sized pieces of your research that you're doing. Keep accurate records. Whatever you read, don't think you're not going to use it again. Reference it, keep those records. And something else that helped me was know when to say enough is enough. You can research and research and research. You got to go. When you feel you want to give up, picture yourself being gowned and being capped, and let that motivate you. Thanks.
Thank you. And just to drawing on bite by bite, I always use the analogy of the elephant in the room, well, the big elephant. And how do you eat a big elephant? When you look at this elephant, you think, I can never eat this elephant. But it's one bite at a time. And then before you know it, you've eaten the whole elephant. The other thing that I quite liked about yourself was the discipline. The tip is you've got to be disciplined. And I remember I also studied later on in life. I was also in the public sector, and I went back and did my master's and then my PhD in my 40s. And I remember I would work every night, and then I would take the Sunday off. But every night I would work, and I would listen to my teenage kids and my husband. They used to watch Frasier, and they used to laugh and laugh. And I used to be busy studying for my master's while working on my master's and my PhD later. And the thing is that from an economics point of view, you sacrifice now. So I was sacrificing watching Frasier, which I can watch again now on DVDs, but to gain something later on. And yeah, that was my thing. And then the last thing you said was when you want to give up, yeah. What I found with the master's and with a lot of students, there is so much out there to research. And when you're doing a master's, you've got to be very careful to stay focused. And in that dissertation, you've got to learn to put a full stop at the end of it and hand it in. Because it's actually, for me, it was very hard, particularly when I did my PhD. It was like my baby, and I was handing over my baby, and it went up for examination. And when it came back with minor corrections, I then did the corrections, and I was so happy that I had my baby back. But then afterwards, when I got the PhD, I got depressed afterwards. And I believe a lot of people do hit it down because when they graduate, because they don't have that thing guiding them anymore. And I think that's why a lot of students come back and do more studies and more studies. It's almost like an addiction. And Mbaseni, what tips do you have for any future postgrad students?
No, thanks. I think it's similar. Maybe I can just add, I think from my side, I've moved from engineering to project management. Then when I was doing my previous qualification, that was in management, the MBA. So the whole issue of managing stakeholders around you becomes very important. Because there are people that compete for your time. Because they compete for your time, they might not understand the pressures that you actually have, that you are going through. And if you don't communicate those pressures, then you start to actually hit a wall here and actually hit a wall there. But what I also found being useful, I happen to actually have kids that have graduated from school, from varsity. There are things that I did not actually learn in my time at varsity. So I went to them on some of these things and asked them, you know, what does this thing mean? They started laughing at me, but they actually helped me. So for me, is to not underestimate the resources that you have around you. It's the same thing with the people at work. You will actually find that some of them, if you talk about your journey, they start also to actually add value in your life. So I think it's to actually create this excitement around your journey and for people to be willing to support you rather than you fighting for the support. Otherwise, I don't see it. I think everybody will have to find an agility on how you actually bring the environment around you that supports you. Because you're going to go down, you have to go up. When you're in the rivers, they must be with you. As you climb up those mountains, they must be with you. But you must find a way that you create that line of sight for them to see you when you are struggling at times. Yeah.
That's a very good point. Thank you for that. Yeah, you need support. You need a support system. And that's why, for me, going to university and being with other students, you actually motivate one another. And you discuss your journey and you get ideas from other people. And someone, as you said, your kids could help you out. But especially when it came to technology and things like that, the young people somehow seem to be much better at it than us older people, if I can say that. But no, that's a very good point. Thanks. Thank you. I will start with you now, Boseni. I'll swap around a bit. So how did you juggle your family, your work, your studies and your social life? I guess your social life being your running.
When I started my MBA, I had run 10 comrades. I had to make a decision at that time to say, where do I give my time to? So the first year, that was the only year that I did not run comrades. So currently, if there's 1 year that I jumped, was year number 11. And the reason why I jumped that year, because at that time, I just felt, and in fact, most people that were talking to me about the MBA journey, they used to make me scared, to feel like I'm not going to survive it. Yeah. I'm not going to make it. Then I had to say, how do I prioritize? So I just felt that the family probably need you, work will need you, but comrades, maybe I've done 10. Maybe let me jump this one. So that's the only year that I've jumped it. I've now completed 12. After that, I came back, I actually ran again. So I think don't also be rigid in terms of how you actually prioritize the other needs that you actually have. Within work, I think it was a very, very difficult time. When the second year hit us, that's when COVID came in. So when COVID-19 came in, everybody in the health sector, nobody had to go home. So all other people at home were actually working. But I had a relationship with my supervisor on my dissertation, who just said to me, Bongi, just continue, hold on. And he said to me, you know that when you've got time, a lot of time in your hands, you don't get things done. But if you've got less time in your hands, you get things done. So I think that support that I actually received, even from work, even from my family, it actually kept me going. But I think, like I was saying, Prof, I don't think that there is a simple process that I can say this is a process. But I think for me, it was more trying to find that balance all the time and sacrifice where I could actually sacrifice.
Thank you. Yeah, I found it interesting that you said that you gave up running that first year because you got people who'd done MBAs came with scare tactics. And I found the same, they seem to exaggerate and embellish what it really involves. And yes, it does take a lot of hard work and commitment and dedication, but it is doable. If it wasn't, people wouldn't get through it. So yeah, it is doable, but you've got to set yourself, it's time management more than anything. I was meant to see if the audience had any questions. Is there anything that any of you would like to ask in the audience of Bongbonseni or Vanessa? Any questions? They spoke about their experience and any tips. Anyone have any questions? Come on, somebody must ask a question. The first person must ask something, and then everybody will ask questions. What about tips? Do you want to ask any questions about... This is meant to be a discussion. So
Are we allowed to ask questions?
yeah, you can ask questions.
May I ask you a question? Why do you want to do your master's? Have you answered that question? Keep that thought at the back of your mind, and we are here because we want to inspire you to do your master's and not just do it to get a degree and hang on the wall. So we are here offering our time, our experience, and our motivation. So as you think on that question, why do you want to do the master's? I think let's proceed, and then we will come back to you.
Yeah, okay, and then you can maybe come up with some questions. Okay, don't be shy. I have to sit here. There's a question from the gentleman in the front, and then there's someone in the back. Thank you.
My name is Charlie. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Charlie. I wanted to ask both of you. Apologies. My name is Charlie. I wanted to ask both of you, if you look back, really your journey, is there anything that you can share with us as that you might have done it differently?
Okay,
That's all.
all right. Do you want to answer that, Vanessa? Okay.
Mr. Mchali, that's a very good question, and thank you for that. Yes. The thing that I'll do differently is that I would not have wasted so much of time editing my own work and re-editing it and trying to perfect it, because, and you'll hear later that one of my other qualifications is a scientist. And so I limited myself and wanted to be my own editor-in-chief and write this paper to such perfection. But here's the take-home message. And you heard my colleague say that there is a support out there. In your research methodology program, you will find that the likes of Dr. Carolyn Goodyear and other people are there to do exactly that. So time wasters, if I could phrase one of the things I'll do differently is I'll call a time waster a time waster. And the other thing is that be your own worst critic. In this, I'll say it differently. Tell yourself, as I say to myself, Vanessa, you're putting out a paper. It must have X amount of words. You need to get this degree. You are not publishing encyclopedias here. Come on, pull yourself together now. Get this thing done. What is wrong with you? Fraser, my kids were watching my daughter laughing, playing with her pet rabbits, and the family is having all these outings, and I have to excuse myself. Don't feel sorry for me. I brought it on myself. Time wasters. That's what I would do differently. And I'll share a little bit later about some of the tips and tricks that helped me to finally get to the finish line. By the way, I didn't finish my master's in 2 years. I did my coursework and I took a break. So we'll tell you a little bit more about that later. But a good question. Thanks.
Do you want to ask something? There's another question in the back.
My name is Dennis Ndlovu. Many years ago, I did an MBA
in this institution. And at the time, it was a specialized kind of MBA, which CHE said a program of that nature cannot be specific, because it was MBA in water management. And so we couldn't continue. And I was left with a dissertation and one minor subject. The question is, is there going to be any credits that one can get from that old MBA that ceased to exist? Thank you.
Dennis, I think I worked with you many years ago. Yeah, I remember. When you stood up, I recognized you. Many years ago, I worked with Dennis and Louisville many years ago. Yeah, good to see you again. Dennis, I think what you can do is you can apply for a master's, and then you can actually give them, maybe they'll give you credits, but you did it in 2000 was it Water MBA 2002, I think you did it. Maybe they'll give you credits, I don't know. You'll have to put in an application and then find out if they'll give you credits for those modules. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Dennis, sorry, if I could just inspire you. So I did my coursework in 2014, and Robin Lowe is sitting here. Thanks to her, and you heard earlier my colleague was talking about support. Reach out to the department, and they are ever willing to recouch, rephrase, show you down the way that you could be exempt from certain things. All is not lost. If the answer is no, it is only procedurally no. You still have your work, it is your work, just change your topic. And I'll say this to you, you own that topic, and this world needs to hear about what you have to say. So don't give up, and don't let bureaucracy or administrative burdens or hurdles restrict you. As I said, I did my master's coursework in 2014, but I only graduated last year. What was I doing all these years? Huh? I was living, I was working. Life catches up with you. Circumstances happen. Once a student, always a student. If there's anything I can encourage and motivate and inspire you with, it is this. You have a unique story to tell in your workspace, in your academic journey, or just by virtue of who you are or where you've come from. That lens, because that's what Masters is all about. With what lens are you going to critically look at a topic, analyze it, and give your position on it? So you have a story to tell, and that's my story. Thanks.
Okay, thanks very much. I've just been told that we've got an hour for all the participants, so I need to actually ask the new participants to come. But thank you very much, Vanessa. Thank you very much, Bonseni. Is there anything more you'd like to say?
I think, yeah. No, thanks. I think for me, colleagues, is to wish you well. I don't regret on my side having come back here and obtained the qualification that I have. I've got more confidence. I've been able to change a portfolio in terms of what I used to do and what I do now. I lead a major transformation initiative within the organization. So for me, I think you have come up with a brave and a good choice to come to UKZN. I love UKZN, by the way. I think for me, I actually found that I could actually relate with the culture and everything. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you. Our next two, yes, Ashworth. Okay. So the next two participants are Jennifer, and she's been in law for 28 years, and she's on the judges program. And then we have Ashley, and he did a postgrad diploma in accounting, and he's now a chartered accountant, yeah, and he's with PricewaterhouseCoopers. He's an associate there. So we'll carry on. I won't ask them the first two questions. I will carry on and ask them the last two questions. So what I want to find out, I'll go to Jenny first. What value did you gain from your postgrad studies? And you did I had to see Vina.
Masters in law.
Yeah, you did a master's in law degree. So what value did you gain from that?
Well, it was absolute value because I studied my undergrad. We had to do an undergrad and then we had to do an LLB, and it was quite different now with just one undergrad. And that was pre-Constitution. So doing it after the Constitution and much later on absolutely helped me in terms of the law. Firstly, I was from an era where you had to go to a library and pick up a book and study and pay fines for not returning your book on time. So it was the dinosaur age. And now I realized the resources were like technologically advanced. And I'm now studying in 2014, I think it was 2013. And it was amazing to study and, learn the new constitutional cases and post-constitutional law. So it absolutely helped me on my journey.
Great, thank you. And what value did you gain, Ashley, from your postgrad studies?
I actually finished my postgraduate diploma in accounting in 2018. So I think it was quite an exciting time, I think, because as Jennifer said, I think we had a lot of access to a lot of different materials and a lot of different platforms. There was a bit of online learning, the internet, you're allowed to actually look at different sort of sources of information. So you have your university textbook, and then there you have recommended readings that are prescribed by your lecturers, and you actually don't even have to enter a library. You can sit at the comfort of your home and do additional readings if you're not understanding a concept. And I think just having that access to all these different resources just made it so much easier for me. I think from the time I think my journey from school to university, and as it progressed, it just became easier to access a lot of information in a short space of time. And that really helped my journey. And then I think also, because I went into the CASA route, it's very structured. So the course at UKZN is structured similarly to SAICA, to the accredited body, to South African Institute of Chartered Accountants. So that helped me develop me into a professional, and to gain the competence, the skills, and the thinking to actually qualify and become part of this institution. So I think the structure in UKZN was also quite well formed to actually take me to that step.
Okay, great. Does anyone in the audience have any question for the participants? Nobody's got questions. If you could just tell me a bit, Jennifer, how have your postgrad studies impacted on your career development?
So, just to give you an idea of where my career took off from, I started off as a candidate attorney and then became a director in a company and then continued in practice for many moons. And thereafter, in 2010, I was called to act as a regional magistrate. So being a regional magistrate, I had to sit on the criminal and civil bench. So I realized, doing a postgrad studies would actually assist me in writing better judgments and being a better presiding officer. And that's what made me make the decision. I think I've always wanted to do a postgrad, but just didn't have time. Life catches up with you, and you work, and you're busy. And the challenges of life actually make your decision delayed. So that's when I decided to do it. And thereafter, I continued practicing back in my office for many years and was called upon to act as a judge last year. So I acted as a judge, and now I'm part in this year of the judges program by the Chief Justice of South Africa. And I think that the Masters in Advanced Criminal Justice System would definitely have assisted and will assist me in the future in sitting and presiding over criminal cases. So the benefit was there, and hopefully I'd get to my PhD at some stage. I believe you're never too old to study a postgrad. I see Robin says to me that there's somebody who actually enrolled at 72. So I've got some time.
Yeah, actually, I did my PhD. Well, I did masters because I needed to have a master's to be a lecturer. When I left my previous employment, I wanted to get into lecturing. And I did a PhD before a PhD became mandatory. And I remember my husband saying to me, we went on my first conference, we went overseas, and I thought I was quite a big deal. And he said to me, you know what, Micheline, there's a difference between you and all those participants here. I said, oh, what? He says, all of them have got a doctorate except you. So if you want to be serious about academia, he says, I suggest you look at a PhD. And that's why I did the PhD. And I was actually quite grateful, because then in 2010, when I got it, it then became mandatory for all the lecturers to get a PhD, and they had to get it within 3 years. There was quite a lot of pressure on them. Because before, you could be a lecturer with just a master's. But it's your research that actually makes you a better lecturer, because you go out there, you write articles, you research, and then you learn, and that actually makes you a better lecturer. And I guess, too, in your case, doing the law, the masters, you're actually going out there and researching and reading a lot, and it does help you in your, and you get promotions, it improves your knowledge, and you need to challenge yourself, and so in order to grow, and I know we all did it later. I did it later in life, but you're never too old, and sometimes maturity is actually on your side. You're more, could I say, motivated or more driven, or the young people, sometimes they like to party or they miss classes, but us older people, we know what the real world is like, and we don't want to waste any time. Ashley, do you, how did your postgrad studies impact on your career development? And obviously you had to have that postgrad diploma in order to write the board exam.
Yeah, so I think, for the first part of it, your first board exam is based on your actual PGDA studies. So how adequately you prepared for your PGDA took you on to the journey for your first board exam. So I think that's the first part of it. And then secondly, to become a CA, there's different routes, but I chose the auditing route. So in postgraduate, you have 4 main modules. You have accounting, auditing, tax, and managerial finance. So when I went into PwC, which was still one of the big 4 firms in South Africa and the world, the accounting modules and the auditing modules actually gave me those fundamental technical skills to go in to industry and to practice what I've learned. So it gave me an idea, okay, you go into this type of business, this is the procedures, this is the structures. And it helped me perform a structure in my life to be successful at work. And also another thing that's quite important in the accounting industry, and UKZN also implemented, is ethics. And especially ethics in our profession is quite fundamental now more than ever, as you know, with the case reports and things happening around in the country. So it's quite necessary to actually have that ethical thinking and ethical skill. And we learn that in such a high detail here that you actually implement it in your life. So you think how to act ethically in life, in your relationships, at work. So that's actually quite where I learned it here. And I think that also helps develop your values. And I think our course is just structured in a way to make you succeed at doing what you need to do in industry. And after my 3 years in articles in PwC, I moved on to RCL Foods. And I'm the accountant. So now I'm using my accounting skills, my tax skills learned from my PGDA to actually perform my task now. And even the management accounting and stuff, you learn some leadership skills that help me to manage a team. So I think like it's well-rounded to develop you into a business leader.
And tell me, at RCL Foods, I know they used to put a lot of emphasis on supply chain. So are you involved in supply chain at all?
Not as yet.
Not as yet. Okay, because I know they're always looking at cutting costs, and one of the ways of cutting costs is in production and efficiencies. And okay, all right.
Yeah, but I think in our current economic climate, I think a lot of companies are looking at reducing costs. Yeah.
RCL, I think they were one of the. Because I know one of the people that worked at RCL went to my husband's company. She was a CA, and she was the one who introduced supply chain principles at the company where my husband was at GUD, and that's where she learned it from RCL. So I think they were one of the firsts to get very big into that.
So I think with the current economic climate, like. You look at ways to actually create value in your business and value in the actual environment at which you work in and for the stakeholders. And you try to do what's right for everyone. Yeah.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for the participants in the audience? Yes, there's a question there.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
My name is Mazusa Shezi. It's more like I'm an alumni here because I used to be a student here, and I completed my studies in 1999, you see. And now I'm working, you see. So the one thing that I want to ask you, in fact, being here was very, very fantastic. University, you meet very professional people, nice people. But if you go outside, guys, it's a jungle. You meet people who will put you backward and say a lot of things. You see. But anyway, you must be positive. Being positive is very, very important. Since I left this area, God has blessed me with a daughter. She's studying in Newcastle, and she's very, very motivating when he's preparing tea for me at home. Now, guys, I want to ask you, particular laws, accounting, and academics. How it's like I normally read sometimes if I'm not working, like Saturdays, newspapers and all those kind. But how are opportunities in the field of scarce skills, like accounting and accounting, and also at a postdoctoral level? How are opportunities? Because sometimes we don't know now whether there are opportunities or what. You see, even now my daughter is studying, but I'm not sure as to where must I channel her to after she has finished her studies. I also have to thank all those guys who organize this function, because we don't normally get opportunities like this. I've been working for 20 years since I left this university, so I'm very, very busy. We don't always get opportunities like this, so I have to thank those guys who organize this function. Thanks very much, guys. Keep it up. Thanks, Tim.
So was that a question? Do you want an answer?
Yes, like how, particularly in the field of accounting, and also at a postdoctoral, how are our opportunities? Because during our times, accounting was booming. Most of the professions, things were going well, but now things have changed a little bit. But you don't always have to be negative as well. Thanks.
Yeah, so actually from my experience now in the private sector and also from the auditing sector. I think accounting is a very scarce skill at the moment. Even at the company I am working, you can sense where there's a shortage of skills and where skills are required. And I think a huge factor to that is a lot of accountants, people with PGDA degrees or PhDs in accounting are actually leaving the country. There's a lot of outflows to other countries or other nations which are opening their arms to try and steal a lot of skills from South Africa. I know several of my colleagues just this year or a few months, they just immigrated to the UK because they are taking them with open arms. And that's also like causing a shortage of skills in our country because our local people are leaving and there's no one to replace those skills. So for you, for example, for your daughter studying an accounting or finance degree, there will be plenty of opportunities. And I think you can easily see if you go on LinkedIn and search a job in the field of finance and accounting, how many jobs there is available. And I think that will give you an idea, and it's actually seen in the economy. It's seen in I think there's been journals written about it, but it's actually quite a broad field now with accounting and finance. So I think she would easily get a job in some sort of finance or accounting field at this moment. Yeah.
Thank you for that answer, Ashley. There's another question in the back. Yes.
Prof. Nod, I want to supplement the answer provided by Ashley.
Okay.
Yes, Professor Bomi Nomlala from the School of Accounting, Economics and Finance. Just to respond, there is a lot of demand for chartered accountants, and particularly for female chartered accountants. And we've been seeing a lot of less applications from students pursuing this particular field. I would then encourage you to encourage your daughter to apply. There are plenty of opportunities, like Ashley has indicated. We are seeing in our school a lot of demand for postgrad qualification. We've got in our school a master's in accountants, a master's of taxation. There is also a growing demand for a PhD in accounting. I did a PhD in accounting at UKZN. Therefore, there are plenty of opportunities. One could pursue the academic side of it. Other colleagues of mine are in industry, utilizing their skill that they've attained, in the academic space. Therefore, there are opportunities. One thing which I've noticed with high school students is that they don't want to take pure maths, and somehow it does contribute, in terms of their entry requirements. I think parents that are here must then encourage their students, their kids, to make the right choices so that they can pave a better opportunity for them going into the tertiary or doing their degrees. Thank you.
And also talking about the benefit of postgrad degrees, Professor Ngalala, he did his PhD in accounting, and I think you've got your inaugural lecture coming up.
Not as yet.
But soon, no?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay, all right. Now.
Professor Slanda and Harold.
Oh, Harold. Oh, okay, all right. Now, I thought you were a full professor. Okay, all right. Jennifer, I would like to ask you, how were you able to juggle your family, your work, your studies, and social life? And do you have any suggestions for future studies and as to how they could juggle it?
Very difficult task, that is. Got a very difficult answer. Because I think at that stage, when I started the studying, I was acting as a regional magistrate. And so I had to juggle that and also oversee the office and then also try and oversee the house. So it was very, very challenging. And often you'll find that you want to make these challenges an excuse to stop. Although you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, you want to make an excuse. So it takes a lot of focus and dedication to be able to say, I'm not going to make excuses. I'm going to get this done. And Robin will tell you that I didn't even know how to use a computer properly when I started my dissertation. She laughed at me. And it took me 3 months to actually finish this dissertation, and she was the proudest, obviously through her help as well. So I think what's important is that you have the support. The support, you need the financial support to do postgrad, you need the support of your family, and you need to know exactly what your goals are. So when you're even choosing that topic for your master's, it must be something that you want to specialize in, something that you are passionate about. Because you'll never be able to write about something that you're not passionate about. And that is the only way that you'll be able to deliver a story that somebody else will learn from and read. So those are decisions that you have to think very seriously about before you just say, I just want a master's. It's not about that. It's about having the passion and drive. And having the passion and drive will assist you in overcoming the obstacles and the challenges, and it'll drive you to the finish line. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that, and I agree with you. Often, my master students will come to me and say, well, you give me a topic, can you give me an example, can you give me a topic? And I always say to my students what my supervisor said to me, choose a topic that you're passionate about, especially if you're doing a PhD, because you're going to be sitting with this topic for 3 or 4 years, and if you hate that topic, you're going to hate your 4 years of your life, and you probably won't finish. So yeah, it's a process and it's a journey, and you want to learn from it. I mean, it's actually quite a big journey, a master's, because you've got to come up with a topic, you've got to come up with a proposal. That proposal then has to be approved by a panel of reviewers. It's then ethical clearance. That's also quite a big process. It's your literature review, your interview guide or questionnaire. It's your findings, your discussion of the findings, recommendation, conclusion, and then you submit it, and then it gets examined, and it can come back with minor corrections, it can come back with major corrections. So it's a big journey, but it's an exciting journey. But you need to, and sometimes I tell my students, for example, my honours students, so you must work on your dissertation during the VAC. You mustn't have a holiday, because you'll have a holiday after the end of November when you're done with all your exams. And next year when you're working, you'll have a continuous holiday. I tell them that because they don't know what's coming, because they found when they work, they come back and they say, oh my gosh, university was such a doddle. I wish I was back at university. I have to work so hard now. So, but it's to time management, and yeah, you need to sacrifice something, and you know that you're going to gain something from it, because you will gain from a postgrad studies in terms of, if it's not just yourself growing within yourself, but maybe also in your work getting promoted. I mean, I certainly wouldn't be a full professor if I didn't do my master's and my PhD. I'd probably still be a buyer or, at public enterprise. Any questions? Yes, there's a question, 2 questions. Thanks.
Yeah, there's this new thing called artificial intelligence, and maybe to share with upcoming and young students. I mean, on Monday I went to visit one of my customers in Sasolburg, and next door there was this huge warehouse of Sasol, and there was literally no one. Everything was just automation, and I just see the future where there won't be a judge, everyone will, and then, no, for serious. So I just want to, I don't know, what's an outlook of some of these careers? That's my question.
Yeah, the thing is that we've got to try and get students ready for the future. And I know what you're talking about fully automated warehouses. And the new warehouses that are being set up in South Africa, more and more are going to go fully automated. But the current ones we can't automate because, of course, we've got unions to deal with and they won't allow it. But as more and more warehouses come up, and so we've actually, for our performance management, we've got to get more guest lecturers in. And we also now have got an advisory board. And we are relying on them to kind of tell us what's happening and to prepare our students for what's happening in the future, because there are jobs we don't even know what these jobs are going to be. They don't even exist yet, but they will be there. But one thing is for sure. I mean, when I did supply chain, it was like, what is supply chain? Even now, if you ask people what supply chain, they don't know. They think it's procurement. But in the 70s, you never heard about supply chain. So those are all new jobs. And I do believe that our children and grandchildren will be ready for the future, just as we were. But it's just to get them there. And yeah, who knows what the world is going to look like? We don't know. But we can only see what's happening now and try and get them ready. And yes, with artificial intelligence and the fourth industrial revolution, we have to get... we have to make sure that we keep up to date and that it's ever changing and learning never stops. And as an academic, even if you're a professor in accounting, you'll never know what there is, because every year the accounting is, the act is, things are changing. I know people who did accounting 20, 40 years ago. I mean, accounting is very different to, my husband started off as an accountant, and it was very different to what it is now. I mean, they had manual ledgers. They didn't even have computers then when he did it. So they've all had to adapt. And there are jobs that don't exist anymore, like we used to have typewriters. Maybe you learned to type on a typewriter, and you had people that came and serviced typewriters. Even the newspaper was printed with a manual press, and now it's all automated. So those people all had to be retrained. So yeah, we will, as people, we are very adaptable, we're very agile, and we're very resilient, and I believe we will adapt. Thanks. You had a question, lady behind you? Thank you.
Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Zandile Mkwane. I just want to find out from, I think it's Jennifer and Vanessa and Mr. Kaba here, who already studied a master's. I also studied my master's. I think I started in 2013. Like Vanessa, I only graduated in 2019. So I struggled with the write-up of my dissertation. Not because maybe there were any other things, I was just lazy. So I just want to find out from them, how do you motivate yourself during the write-up? Because I want or I intend to do my PhD. But now that struggle, it took a lot of time. And when I finally did it, I realized I could have done this thing within 6 months. So how do you motivate yourself then? Thank you.
As I said, you have to make sure you always see the light at the end of the tunnel. And your focus got to be on the end game. And you got to realize that you don't want to waste time. Time wasters, as Vanessa said, is something that will steal your time away and make the entire project delayed. So the sooner you do it and the sooner you get over it, the faster you'll reap the rewards of that qualification. So you got to be disciplined and focus. And yes, it does mean, as Prof said, that when you're older and you're more mature, you realize that there's much more to life than partying or dancing or night out with the friends. Although I disagree on that one. But you got to balance it. But at the same time, you'll have to make sacrifices. You'll have to make sacrifices, and that's when you need your entire family to pull in and assist you with the things that you're supposed to do. So, I mean, when you eventually finish that dissertation, you'll thank your family for, and you'll acknowledge them on the first page. So that's how you motivate them to assist you. Okay.
And also, you need a topic that you're passionate about. I think there's a question there. Yeah, you need to be passionate about your topic. If you're not passionate about, maybe you weren't passionate about your topic, I don't know. Maybe that's why it took you. You were passionate. Okay, all right.
All right, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I just thought I could also maybe add something to that, which kind of worked for me. You set targets and you reward yourself. You know, usually as ladies, we always have something that we want. I saw this nice shoe. But you tell yourself, I'm not going to get the shoe until I finish my literature review chapter. So you are working towards something that you really want. So make the journey fun, right? And if you really want to hang out with your friends, someone was asking about balancing with your social life and everything. Put that social life as part of the reward, right? If I finish this, I'm going to have a night out with my friends. If I do this bit, I'm going to spend the weekend at a spa with friends. So once you have that in order, I'm sure it's also one way you can actually motivate yourself to pace yourself and keep motivated.
You say you could have done it in 6 months. Remember, when you start off on the journey, you don't know too much about the journey. It's only when you finish the journey you can look back and you can think, I could have done this much quicker. So, you know, now going forward to PhD, the masters, you become a master in research. So you kind of prepare to do the PhD. So you kind of know what to expect in terms of the proposal and the write-up and the ethical clearance and the collecting of data and the writing up of the findings. Is there another question? Thanks.
Hi, my name is Makosi Ntuli. I'm just going back to the AI question and looking at KZN as it's a heavy industrial province. And I know some of the competitors or other universities are also looking in terms of manufacturing, and they are designing master programs in manufacturing. Is there an appetite from UKZN to actually look at something like that, especially in KZN being so heavily industrialized? Thanks.
Yeah, it's a good point. We introduced the master's coursework in marketing and management in IT. In IT, you'll get a bit of quite a bit on computing and IT and artificial intelligence. At one point, we were also looking at masters in coursework in supply chain management. And of course, the supply chain then deals with the demand planning, the sourcing, the making, which is transformation, production, and then the deliver. Because we've got the busiest sport in Durban, but we haven't gotten there yet. Yeah, we haven't gotten there yet, but it's on the, on the cards, we've been thinking about it. But at the moment, our focus is very much in meeting with alumni and with advisory boards and looking at our actual module content and making sure that it's relevant and that our students will be employable. Because as we said, things are changing, so we need to change as well. But yeah, we probably will look at that within the next year or two. But it won't be in marketing, it will be in supply chain, which then, manufacturing, but supply chain, an aspect of supply chain is manufacturing. Thank you. And of course, sustainability is also a very big thing in the, well, at the moment, sustainability is quite a big thing. Thanks. More, is that the end of it? Oh, one more question, no? The next group, next session. Okay, now who's the, sorry. Okay, all right, okay, sorry. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you. I've got two new participants here, alumni here. I've got Pamela and Lonzi, and I've got Mshezi. Perhaps you can tell us something about yourself. I will start with you. What did you study and where you are at here? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nobukosi. I'm a UKZN alumni, graduated this year with Masters in Commerce and Leadership Studies. I am working for the maritime sector. I'm a head of sales and business development, so I'm more focused on the commercial aspects of the business.
Thank you. And you?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Pamela Mlonzi. I am a director at Payment Partners. I'm an alumni at UKZN. I qualified last year for Masters in Business Law. I also have qualification in social work. I think that's all for now.
Okay, perhaps I can ask you both what your experience as a postgrad student was, and if you have any tips for our future postgrad students.
Thank you. Maybe just to take you back a little bit from my journey, I enrolled in 2020, just before COVID hit South Africa. So the first case of COVID, we heard about it when we were sitting in our block classes, that South Africa was already officially in that COVID dilemma, which affected the entire world. And for me, it was, a very tough time, because the university had to make some decision in terms of the future of us and where we're going to, how we're going to proceed. So we were given an option at a later stage to deregister for those that wanted to deregister. Unfortunately, I did not do that. There was a baby in me that wanted, to really finish this degree, because I knew what it could have done in my life. And it was something that I've always wanted to do, And I can tell you that, I'm busy currently applying for my PhD. So definitely I'm proceeding. And what I can tell you, the tips that I can give you is not different to what everyone has said from the panel. It's dedication, it's motivation, it's focus, is beginning with the end in mind. You must always think about you graduating, walking down that podium, and think about the power and the impact that this qualification can do in your life. So for me, those were the things that I was looking at. And I knew that, if other people can do it, so can I.
Basically, for me, starting from the reason why I registered for Masters in Business Law, I was doing my articles as a candidate attorney at a commercial law firm, and basically coming from social science background, I decided I'm not going to start with my passion, but I will start with something that was required, the skills that would be required of me in order to fit and to be competent. So I enrolled for business law. And then it really, really equipped me, because I was placed in a litigation field under insolvency, and you rotate. So basically, one thing I can tell you, as I was doing my course, I was actually seeing the value in the knowledge and the skills gained from the course itself, and what I was doing and what I was required to do. So basically, UKZN has enabled me to not only learn something practically, but also to gain all the literature that was required and even more. So from what I can tell is what I needed to do was more sacrifice on my side, because I was doing articles which are demanding, and I managed to actually complete my master's in 2 years and I think 6 months. And like I said, like any of the panelists tonight, I'm a mother of 3, I'm married. So I was juggling as well everything that was required of me. And for me, the tips that I will give you is consistency. I found that it's very helpful. When you leave your master's or dissertation for long, you're going to lose the interest. You're not going to remember where you were, what articles you've researched, or basically you're going to lose the momentum. So I can advise you to have discipline. As I can tell from my story that raising 3 minor children, it was not easy, but I had to make sure that every week I touch on my research without fail. And basically, I did not quite stop the other areas of my life. I was able to participate in church. I was able to participate and write my board exams and completed without fail. So somebody said, yeah, when you have less time, you end up performing better. So I think I perform better under pressure. So don't stop everything, but as long as you're disciplined, you're consistent, you will make it. Thank you.
And I like that comment that when you're busy, you get more done. What I've heard at work and in the business environment is, if you want something done, give it to a busy person, and it will get done. Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that's got a question to either Pamela or Nombukosi? Yes? Can I have a mic there?
Okay, greetings. My name is Umthunzi. I think it's one of a panel that I'm not somebody who asks. I'm an alumni, finishing up a PhD in this college.
Wow.
And we talk about motivation, discipline, and all that. It's going to be a question to you and to the college, to you, Prof, as well as a representative. The question is, myself, I did not find a problem with writing, but I found a problem with either the communication. When, for instance, you submit something for ethical clearance, for instance, you get a response after 4 months.
Yeah.
When you request communication, and this is, I'm not generalizing this, but you find some distasteful responses which triggers lack of discipline. And I'm saying that because I'm saying the question of motivation, I learned this in statistics, it's a dependent variable.
Yeah.
Something that must be triggered. The more you find feedback, the more you work. The more you find negative feedback, the more it requires more discipline and that. Now I'm asking you, did you have that experience, and how did it maintain, affect your motivation and discipline? The next question is, am I talking something that you are aware as an institution, and if you are hosting these people, how do you intend to work around it? The last question is an observation. It appears people don't finish their postgraduate in time. Are you seeing that? Thank you.
Do you want to go first? Thanks.
I'm not sure. Did you take my picture?
I will take your picture when you graduate with your PhD.
Thank you very much. That's a very good question that you asked. And I must say, as much as I finished my master's on record time, it wasn't easy. I went through some very difficult time. And I'm also a mother. I'm a very busy person, but the school, what you're saying about the school, I did not want to dwell much on the negative side of it, but yes, it is there. So for me, I must say I had a very good and supportive supervisor. So as, especially when I was doing my dissertation, because that's where I experienced a whole lot of delays from the school. But I was constantly talking to them. I never gave them a peace of mind. I was making my voice heard all the time. And I'm very opinionated, you know. I used to really give them a good run. So it helped me. I was able to finish on time. Because even after I was told that, you know what, your degree is complete, you're graduating, recently during the autumn graduations, but it took time for me to get everything. They were, I mean, it was so close to the graduation, I didn't have some of the information. I had to write to even the head of the department to get things done. So for me, it helped. And I did receive a whole lot of negative feedback, even from my dissertation. But you know what also helped me was the fact that, you know what, before I could register, I had someone, one of my MDs, he told me, he said, you know what, I stopped, I did not complete my master's because of the negative feedback. So I was expecting all that. So it's very important to talk to as many people as you can that can associate with what you are trying to do in order. And also the group of support that I had was the people that we were sharing the same values, so we're getting the same feedback, because this journey also requires you to have, you know, that support. So I had a very strong support from the team that I was studying with, because we were getting similar feedback from the supervisors that I had. Also, they were supporting me. Certain things were beyond their control, but you know what? I needed to see myself finishing the degree, and I don't give up once I start something. So it helped me.
Okay, and then my answer is that, look, even I had some negative feedback, and the way I've dealt with negative feedback when it comes back to my work, especially when you write articles, and I've written many articles, and every time it's a major rewrite, you know, because academics aren't academics unless they can say something, and that's academia. They want to feel that they've given their values worth, and invariably you'll get, because you've been working with your supervisor, you now have an examiner or you have a reviewer, and it gives you a better product at the end of it. By getting those reviews, and when I get negative comments, I think, yo, and then I put it away and I ignore it, and then when I go back, it's not so bad. But I think the question to me is a different one, where you're saying you've been delayed by the school or UKZN. I think that's more what you're asking me. Now, with ethical clearance, there was a challenge, but we've now, since last year, they've actually picked themselves up, or they've changed. So they have meetings every month, and we know when the committee meetings sit, some ethical clearances are more straightforward than others. So the one, for example, my PhD student, he has to have ethical clearance first before he can get a gatekeeper's letter, and he's doing it at a public institution in Botswana. So he's been given provisional ethical clearance until he got his gatekeeper's letter, and that took a bit of time, because it's quite a challenging ethical clearance. There's a bit of, and it also depends if there's risk attached to it, if there's risk attached to your study. But at one point they were slack, and they have jacked themselves up, and ethical clearance now, it's actually proceeding quicker now, providing the supervisor sticks to the dates. And then, of course, you've got some supervisors that are more committed than others. When I mean more committed, some supervisors have taken on a lot of supervision, and they just don't get back to their students. Now, I try and give feedback within 2 weeks, but, I mean, I had an email from a student a couple of weeks ago, and she said to me, when can I expect feedback for the chapter I sent you. I said to her, what chapter? And she sent it to me a month earlier, and I'd missed it. I'd missed the email. So I always say to my students, if you don't hear back from me within 2 weeks, write me an email, because we have a lot of emails coming through. It's not just the person that we're supervising. There are lots of, probably 100, 200 emails a day. So it's easy to miss something. The examination period can also take a long time. We have to find examiners. That's not always easy. And then when it goes out for examination, we actually have got no control over that. We give the examiners 4 to 6 weeks, but sometimes they take longer than that. So that's also a challenge for us. And then sometimes studies come back with major rework, and then students have got to register for another semester. Does that answer your question?
To the academic feedback as far as the corrections are concerned.
Yeah, but
with respect to the fact that, for instance, I'd send an email to request an update on an ethical clearance. I'll make an example.
Yeah.
I'm not being specific. And then you find a response after 4 weeks. Oh no, check your rig. Like I'm talking about somebody who's new, and that I'm asking do you guys, are you aware of that? Because it ends up, some of us, I'm sorry to say this, but a black person is loyal to one thing. So we end up being loyal to an institution that have a communication deficiency.
But you need to actually speak out to the academic leader if you're not getting that response from your supervisor. You need to actually, for your supervisor to say, go and check the RIG system. He could say, look, it's still under process, or he could check himself. I would check, but
Yeah, I'm okay. I was just saying, probably be aware of it so that you can probably deal with it on your main core, wherever it is.
All right, Prof, just to add evening again, we've introduced a supervisee contract to also assist with regards to the expectation gap. Therefore, when you do your postgrad studies, there's that contract you would have to sign between you and your supervisor to outline the expectation. And I think Prof. Nod also mentioned the fact that what has helped, I think, her in a journey was to constantly talk to the supervisor. And I'm assuming now, with the contract in place, it will lessen that. We are aware that there are instances where it's happening, but I think with the introduction of those contracts, it will lessen and improve that relationship between the supervisor and the student. But thank you very much for bringing it up. And then I think we'll be able to take it in other forums that we often have.
I just want to hand over to Pamela quickly.
Okay. Just to add on the question, I wanted to clarify the time I get the internal comments. It was good. I got like an A. And then my dissertation had gone out to external examination, and it's somebody that's an expert that picked it first, that you missed this, but I do acknowledge that your submission date was before the matter was appealed. However, the actual delays could have been prevented, because when I submitted earlier, the supervisor sent my dissertation later after the case was already appealed. So speaking to the delays that happened, that could have implications that are not good. So I think introducing the timeframes as to when can a supervisor respond, at least serve a period up to 2 weeks or 3 weeks when it's not allowed, obviously allowing the circumstances which are not, or which are beyond their control. I would recommend that. Thank you.
Another question, okay?
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
My question is directed to Pamela. Firstly, let me declare that I'm doing a PhD in marketing. So I'm asking a question which is completely outside of my field. and for a family member to be exact. My question is, how did you reroute from your Bachelor of Social Work or Honours in Social Work to a Master's in Law? I'm asking this question because I've got a family member who's working at the Department of Service Development, and she is a social worker. She has been there for 10 years. And she has been asking me this question: how can I transition from this field to the law field? Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question, which excites me because that's exactly my journey. Basically, on my 5th year as a social worker, I was a supervisor for social workers. And at that time, under the same department, Department of Social Development, I developed a desire to do more for humans or for the communities and to advocate more for children beyond what we're doing, which is like giving services which are not sustainable at times. So how did I do it? I studied through UKZN part-time. I started with the undergrad, which is LLB, and that is supposed to take about 6 years. Trust me, I finished within 4 years, 6 months. Yeah. And how did I do it? I was attending part-time modules here, which are offered. I believe they are still offered here at UKZN. And when I completed, I was fortunate, and also through the platforms opened by UKZN, where they call upon there's a Law Careers Day. So on my final year, I then was there at that expo, and I saw all the law firms and then I went and I asked, can you take students as candidate attorneys who are older into your candidate programs? And they said yes. And I just put my CV and I transitioned. So how do I do it? It was a desire for me to do more than I was doing currently. And I would say the courage to actually enroll is needed. You have to take a step when you want or you have a desire. I took that step to enroll part-time, and time flew. I don't know how it went. It was just fast. And I completed my undergrad, and I was fortunate to get into a law firm, which is Vance. I'm glad and proud to pronounce them because they've trained me, even though after years, I then started my own law firm. So it is very much doable. It's possible. She needs to work hard, and a lot of panelists said have goals, have a vision, and make it happen. It's possible for everyone. Thank you.
I would also like to add to this answer. We also have an interdisciplinary program in law that allows people in social work to also enroll for a master's in law. That is the LLM, or Master of Laws in Childcare and Protection. So many social workers who move from humanities to law always opt for this one, and it works for them. Thank you.
I just wanted to add maybe a follow-up on what you're saying. I wanted to ask whether they'll be admitted as an attorney, because maybe that can be a limitation if they move from social work to masters in childcare. Will they be admitted as an attorney, a practicing attorney? Can I just follow up, because I don't think that would be. That's why I said it's probably for someone, they need to be sure what they want to do with their law degree, basically, because if you want to be admitted as an attorney and practice, you have to start with the undergrad and do your articles and be admitted as an attorney, which is the long process, and sometimes taking shortcuts might not really lead you to where you want to become. So maybe that candidate needs to start with an LLB. I'm currently enrolled for that childcare now. After this is my second master's, because now I'm actually going through the route of passion. That's my passion. Thank you.
Wow, well done. And with 3 good kids, sure. Nombukosi, yeah, you're actually the head of sales and business, and you're a business development manager. How have your postgrad studies impacted on your career development?
For me personally, I mean, the reason why I needed this degree, I saw a gap in the industry. You know, from leadership, from the professionalism. So it has helped me in terms of how I do business. It has assisted me in terms of the way I think around putting a solution for my customers. And also it has enabled me to think out of the box. You know, I don't need to sort of like really sit with that stress. In my industry, you need to always be on top of the game. And this kind of qualification helps you to be on top of the game, you know. So for me personally, and it has opened so much business doors as well that I've seen coming along my way. And in terms of my portfolio as such, you know, it has changed in a very big way.
And how have postgrad studies impacted on your career development, Pamela?
Like I said, the commercial background that I have actually has helped me a lot now in my own law firm. I'm managing to do both commercial law, family law, and that is some skill gained from the academic background that UKZN has offered me. Now I'm able to juggle both family law and the commercial law, and with confidence because I've been empowered through this career. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the panelists?
Good evening again,
Hi.
colleagues. I will try to be concise now because talking too much sometimes is not
That's
always
okay.
good. Sorry, guys, there's one thing that always worries me, but it's not on a serious way. It's like, particularly those guys from the government. So since I left the university, my lecturers used to tell me, hey, in South Africa, in Africa, things are done politically. And I never understand why. And once I'm out, I left this university and started working. I see how politics is very, very heavy on us. So, but I work with the politicians. I even tried to join some political organizations. And I said, no, the way they do things, no, it's not for me. If you have been at universities and then you come with people who things backward, like, you know, in politics, I hear one guy saying that we didn't take a photo. My friend, in politics, even if you take a photo of a person, you could be in trouble in the next general council meeting because they will ask you, why did you take the picture of our president? You do, and you see, you will be for small things, and you will be in trouble. And I told them, no, guys, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to use my education and see how far can it put me. So now what I want to know, guys, is like, all of us here will just say, we will wish that in politics, a president must have a bachelor's degree, a councillor must have a bachelor's degree, a provincial secretary for the political organization must have a bachelor's degree, because the way some of our politicians are doing is more like disastrous. I told some of them, don't know, guys, I'm educated. I'm not trying to be looking down, or I'm not trying to belittle you, but I'm educated. I cannot work with you because the way you do things, university's life was very, very fantastic to me. I met with good people, good lecturers. They always teach us good things, and it worked for me. This university taught me a lot of things that I never had before, and it worked. So what I want to know is like, what can anyone tell me here, or is whether from the particularly panel or from the government, what does the government do? Not only to utilize our university graduates, what is the state doing to promote graduates, and also after they have promoted them, to employ them? What is it? Because I don't, like for instance, I've been asking myself, reading newspapers and everything during my spare time. Like for instance, what is the program of the government to encourage academics of all races and also those previously disadvantaged person? I'll stop there because I wanted to be concise. Is anyone can tell me?
So what you're saying is, so what are we doing for graduates when students finish the degree?
Oh yes, like my question is, what is the state and university or other organization do to encourage, to promote graduate education and to absorb them after they've finished whatever they do?
I think, you know, that there's funding now where they can get employment as interns. Sorry? Full-time education, yeah, it absorbs the students, yeah. And also for companies that get given funding and it's for internship, but then it's got to be within their field. I mean, like a few of my students are currently working for a couple of months, but then, and it's funded by the government, and then, yeah, they've got to get experience within their field. But I don't know if, no? Mm-hmm.
It's going to be difficult a bit to answer for government and what they do. But basically, I want to say, for me, as somebody that I can, I'm outside the bracket of youth by a few years now, but basically they empowered a lot, like young people. I did see that the government itself they do have some programs, or if they make efforts in actually providing more specifically for young people opportunities. And also I want to acknowledge that they are trying to provide, like for instance in law, there are tender systems as well for legal panels in certain governmental departments where we get an opportunity, whereas the only problem is now you are not guaranteed whether you're going to get the work, but there are opportunities with limitations, of course. However, I wanted to just say that let's acknowledge that there are some platforms that are created, and also to encourage young people to really try and be entrepreneurs, because basically we can't run away from the fact that the employment is actually getting, the opportunities are getting more and more limited. So I wanted to say maybe the universities can also try and empower students to not only study to go and find employment, but be empowered to start something of their own. That is a skill that you will not probably get from varsity currently, but I wish the university can do something about that, because when you go out there, that's the gap that you actually discover that actually I'm wise enough to do my job, but I have limitations in terms of how do I manage my time? How do I go find work myself? Because basically it becomes a circle where I'm able now to start my own and employ more, which is something that we can also do to actually assist the government and to break some limitations that we all experience.
And I guess that's where entrepreneurship is quite big, and we actually also introduced it, well, we've introduced it into our programs. I think there's one more question. I think we need to wrap it up, hey? Yeah, one last question, and then we need to, because I think we're over time. Thanks.
Thank you. Good day. My name is Dumelo. I currently work at the KZN legislature. So I just wanted to answer your question. My job, actually, I'm a content advisor there, where we oversee our departments. So within the Office of the Premier, what we have, in terms of the entrepreneurship, they have what they call a KZN Youth Fund, where for a year, maybe let's say they will disperse about 100 million, actually. So it's there. I do oversee that program, and we go on the ground and check whether is it yielding the benefits for the youth. That's where there are submissions. Let's say if you've got a farming business or anything, you submit your proposal to the government, which is the Office of the Premier here in KwaZulu-Natal, and then what they do, they will fund it. And then we've had youth benefiting. And also within the Office of the Premier, there is what they call a database, so that people don't have the information. So we, as an oversight body, where in terms of the legislature,
We told them that they need to market this thing so that people can be aware of these things. Like I just spoke about the database where graduates can submit their names, and then what the Office of the Premier does, and then it just pulls from that, and then it distributes amongst the various departments. It's not that I'm speaking on behalf of the government, but because I'm at the legislative sector, we do see these things. We are playing oversight role over the departments to ensure that the youth and the vulnerable groups, which is the disabled people, the women, and so forth, and all of that are prioritized. That's what I just wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And then, we've come to the end of our sessions, and I want to thank all the participants, and I want to thank Pamela and Nombukosi. Thank you very much for availing yourselves tonight and for answering your questions. It's very much appreciated, and I hope in some way that you have motivated our prospective students, and I'm sure you have, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Talking to you is Dr. John Button, who obtained a Doctor of Philosophy in Information Systems and Technology. I'm currently working in Lesotho as a senior lecturer in the Faculty of Engineering and Technology at Botha University. So I started this PhD in 2019, July, and completed in December 2022. There are certain challenges that I faced along the way, but what made it relatively easier to handle some of these challenges was the continuous support that I got from my supervisor, who's Professor Manoj Maharaj, and also Miss Angela Peace from the School of Management, IT and Governance. I did not do this qualification in vain. Just after completing it, I submitted my new qualification to the HR, and a month after, I obtained the good news that I was being promoted. So my advice would be, if you are considering pursuing any post-qualification, think no further. UKZN is the institution to go. They will always give you the support that you need. Like if you are a doctoral student, if you are a master's student, I remember we went through several training sessions. We went through several workshops. We attended many seminars where we were taught how to write, how we were trained on academic writing, we were trained on writing research methodologies and many other things. You need to be someone who enjoys reading, writing, and research. So if you are going to be a doctoral student, be involved in publishing, I know that the requirement is that you just need one paper for you to graduate, but my advice is write as many papers as you can, especially related to the area that you are studying. Why is that important? When you submit your papers to journals, when you submit your papers to conferences, they will get reviewed and you get review comments. Now, some of the comments that you are going to get will be helpful as well in your writing of your thesis. So you incorporate those comments in your thesis, and you realize that by the time you submit your thesis, you might be surprised not to receive many so comments. You might be surprised that most of the examiners will just accept your thesis as is. So the other thing that I would also want to let you guys know is that as I got immersed in writing, I wrote many papers. Some of them I co-authored with others. Other papers I wrote alone. And my research output improved significantly. If you have the time, you can check my profile on Google Scholar or any other research platform. You can check my profile there, and you realize that in 2022, that's when I published most of my paper. I also got a Research Excellence Award from my institution where I'm currently working, that's Poto University, all because this PhD journey improved my writing skills, it improved my research skills. My first ever conference, I attended it when I was a UKZN student, and that has helped me a lot. So my advice is, if you want to study any qualification, any postgraduate qualification, think UKZN, where they inspire greatness. Wish you all the best. Submit that application and get started in your new academic endeavor. Thank you and wish you all the best.